Hey, welcome to the Sit Down. I'm your man, Rod Love, and with me this evening is none other than man, I almost started to call you Huggy Bear because of the hat, but I'm not going to do that. But none other than Doc Polite. Doc, how you doing this evening, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. I had a great weekend and stuff, and had my favorite dish, which
Well,
was oxtails,
but
rice
you
and
can't
beans,
start us out like that, man. I mean,
and
everybody tuned in, watching, looking at that hat. You got to give us some history, some background. Give us something. I can't
well,
let you slide
I
like that,
got
man.
I wore this out yesterday when I ran to the store, and I got a lot of compliments.
Let
It's
me
a
just say that you say you wore that outside the house.
Yeah, my wife hates it. She says it looked like a clown hat, but it's like that. I'm me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be me. I march to a different drum beat. Um, I'm comfortable with me, so I do what I want to do.
Hey, Doc, I'm not gonna call that a hat. I'm gonna just call that headwear.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it headwear. But it's real unique, man. So somebody custom made that.
Yeah, yeah, they made it for me.
All right.
So,
I mean, I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna wear it, but it looked like some work, some detail went into that.
well, yeah, it's a scrunchy hat, and you can find them on. They sell them online. I've seen them as high as $75.
All right. I don't have anything in my closet that'll go with that, so I'm a
Well,
pass.
I got a pair of paint pants with the multicolors on it. Hey, listen, when you get my age, the last thing you worry about is what other
Hey,
people think.
like the kids say, Doc, you do you.
Yep, I do me every day,
Hey, well, that's all right. Hey, Doc, man.
but
This
I do got
past
to take this off because it's hot.
I feel you what. Hey, Doc, there was
Huh?
some really nice MLK parades um, this past Monday. And I mean, they were just on point, man. Did you get a chance to check out any of the MLK parades or anything?
No, unfortunately, no. Really, you know what the situation I have here at the house, it's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
full
yeah.
full time thing. So, it's not. I could just run out and do stuff. But
Hey,
I watched some of the programs. And there was a few programs online and on television. So
well,
um,
we live in beautiful Orlando, metropolitan
mhm.
Orlando, I should say, Orange County. But I definitely have to give a shout out to the second largest municipality, and that is the city of Apopka. They had a great, when I say great, parade, man, I mean second to none. And I want to give a shout out to the South Apopka Ministerial Alliance. Want to give a shout out to its leader, its coordinator of the parade, and that's none other than Miss Monique Morris. They did a fantastic job, Doc.
Yeah, it's interesting because last year I actually attended that parade with my grandson, Caden, and and we had a great time. I had his little brother in there, Cairo, and who we call affectionately Roro, and we sat out there, just us three, and we enjoyed. They really enjoyed it, you know. And Caden was so excited to see the bands, and the bands come by and he danced and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's good to see that we are able to recognize this giant of a human.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. King. Everybody didn't agree with him. In fact, he was rather vilified during his lifetime by many on both sides of races, whites and blacks. He was even shot at here in Central Florida.
Mm.
But you know,
Is that in the
with
history books, Doc?
yeah, he was so disheartened. I'm not going to go into the history of it, but he was very disheartened, uh, disheartened about the reception he got in Central Florida uh, from both communities. Let's say,
When you say both communities, what do you mean? I mean, spell it
I
out,
mean,
spit it out.
blacks and whites.
Okay.
The leadership at that time accused him of being an agitator who had come into their community and was upsetting the status quo or so, and they didn't want anything to do with it. And so um, I don't think he ever returned.
Man.
And it's interesting, especially when we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about today. Um, you know, actions have consequences,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they're long term, and you don't even realize that when you're making that action or taking that action, that years and years down the road, it has the potential to continuously come back and bite you in the butt. And so um, we are not in many ways as far along as African Americans in Florida as many people in Georgia and South Carolina and other southern states. You know, and I think that has a impact on where we find ourselves often when it comes to us providing resources and information to our community.
And
You know,
Doc, let me ask you this. I mean, just based on, and I appreciate the history that you gave and your perspective.
Mhm.
I mean, I was listening to you talking, and I could tell that you were feeling what you were saying.
Yeah, but, because I'm disappointed in many respects. Right? Honestly, here's the thing for me. I left Orlando, Central Florida, in 1980, and for the next roughly 20 years, I stayed gone. And when I came back to live, I instantly began to understand not much had changed
Okay, but
with
Doc,
it.
on that note, let me hit a timeout. When you say not much had changed at the time, I hear people talk about I've been in this community 30, 40 years and nothing has changed. The thing that strikes me, and I know that's not what you're saying, but the thing that struck me, and you know where I'm going with this, is you hear people that talk about being in the community 20, 30, 40 years and complain about nothing has changed. The thing that I look at is I look at what have they done to affect any level of change. I mean, aside from complaining about everything is wrong, what have you done that substance to affect change?
Well, one of the things is, the definition of insanity is what? Doing the same
Keep doing
thing
the
over and
same
over,
thing over
over
and
and
over
over,
again,
and
expecting a
that
different result.
and that applies to leadership as well. You can't keep choosing to follow the same type of leader that just in a different body. And it's very here. The African American community is very cliquish. It's not open to innovation or change. A lot of time, it in is of itself. This is me
Well,
speaking.
Doc, what about loyalty to one another? At least when if you're talking about um, the communities face the same issues year in and year out. Folk know if you look at certain communities, you look at the level of violence, but then yet you complain to the police that nothing is changing. Where do you go when you talk about being solution driven? There's some young brothers out there, and some of the ones that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They're quiet about what they're doing in communities to affect change. I love what they're doing, but my biggest criticism of it is the fact that I think that quietness about what they're doing is hurting them in and of itself because nobody sees the results that these brothers are getting. And
But
and, and you
but
know,
but Rod, sometimes you're too busy to toot your own horn. You
it
understand?
was a time I would agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
But now, Doc, times have changed. When you tell people you're affecting change in communities, they want to see the results of it. They want to see documentation. They want to see if you're saying you're reducing um, literacy or
Mm-hmm.
illiteracy in communities. They want to see how you're doing it. Where do you have proof that you're doing it? When you show that you're stopping young people that are going through revolving doors in the criminal justice or juvenile justice system, we want to see results. How are you doing?
Okay, so Doc, a straight shooter, I'm honest. The biggest problem is that everybody wants to be a chief, and nobody wants to be an Indian. You have multiple people that are, let's say, literacy, and you go around and you talk to all of these different groups and these people who had literacy stuff, and each one of them have maybe 5 to 10 people involved in their program who are there. Why can't we understand that a group effort is a much better chance of success and outcomes that we want? You know, everybody doesn't need to operate an after school program. How about you volunteer for one that's already up and running, has a history and connection with the community, rather than saying, hey, I can do that. Let me go out here and start this. Why reinvent? Why do you have to go make your own wheel?
Well, Doc, let's shoot directly into the conversation that we were looking to have tonight. Let's shoot directly. We started off on this thing, having a conversation about responsible fatherhood. And instead of using the word responsible fatherhood versus being a dad, we're not going to use the word versus. We're going to say the evolution to being the dad, because anybody could be a father.
It's true.
Let's establish that right now.
Yeah,
anybody can be a father.
A father, in the definition of this conversation, is someone who contributes biologically to the birth of a child. We'll frame it that way. A dad is the person that stays there, and they contribute to the development of that child in critical ways. They're there to offer guidance, love, protection, example, and all of the intangibles.
You just skirting through. You just skirting through those things when the things that you talking about are critically important, and you talk about family bonding. You're talking about levels of accountability.
Right.
Doc, let's just don't. I mean, I know this is the 45-minute segment, but let's dive into some of this stuff. And when we talk about behavioral stability, when you take that role as being a dad.
Okay, so let's talk about personal accountability. Now, as a man, the first thing I see is what you do that matches what you say. See, so you're there setting an example, and I guarantee you, anybody that knows me from one day to 20, 30 years, they'll say he is consistently the person that he tells you he is. Here's what I can do. I know that if I call Doc and I ask him something, I'm going to get the authentic him, and he's going to be consistently. If he says he's going to help, then he means he's going to help.
Yeah. Well,
if he's not,
that contributes.
So when you model that, when that becomes a core value, you now help your children understand how important it is on keeping your word, being honest and forthright in situations. Okay, that's a value that you're teaching them by example. Okay.
Well, Doc, as we're having a conversation about responsible fatherhood and being that dad, well, here's some of the realities of the world we live in now. Being a responsible father, unfortunately, doesn't mean you have to be in the home. I mean, it's ideal to be in the home, but the reality that we live in now.
Well, you mean to be a responsible dad?
Be a responsible dad. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, you can be a responsible father. You can be that dad, even if you're not with the mother.
Right. That has the relationship of the adults in the equation has no bearing on responsibility in the situation.
It has no bearing, but there are consequences of men not being responsible fathers or dads. Some of those consequences.
Wait a minute, because see, we often have this conversation and we talk about the dads, but we don't talk about the environment that the mother sets. And that's just as critical. You can have the desire all you want to to be a great dad. And I know guys that have, but in the other side of the equation, if you are partnered with someone who is vindictive, okay, uh, not willing to partner with you and co-parent, it makes it extremely hard. So
It's
I
it's a
think just
detriment to the
yeah,
children.
and
It's a
I
detriment to the
think we
children.
need to talk more about that in our community, because we're saying these men are not being great dads, but what is impeding their ability? Are there some impediments to their abilities to be great fathers? You can't.
Communication.
Yeah,
Communication
yeah,
is
yeah,
one.
yeah. Communication, understanding, defining clear boundaries. Okay, and you know, it's just we have to understand this. It's no one situation is the same.
You're
No,
right. No
no,
one
you
situation
know.
is the same.
So,
Doc, no one situation is the same. And we're talking about the flip side of it. But
mhm.
Doc, you can still have, let's just say you can still have homes that has the father in the home and there's a disconnect with their
Yeah,
children.
yeah.
And that's why I say communication is key. And you know
Well,
what? We don't get the playbook.
we say communication, but really it's comprehension. I communicate all day, but if you don't understand, then nothing's gonna change.
If you're
And,
not
and
getting
see, right, and that's what we got to do. Do they comprehend the weight of being a parent on both sides? What is being a parent? If I don't understand what being a parent is, how can I possibly perform the duties of a parent?
and that's exactly why, Doc, the Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood Initiative that is facilitated by the Experienced Christian Church in Orange County and also facilitated by No Limits Counseling and Education in Seminole County.
Mm-hmm.
But that is
And
the main reason why you have this initiative that works with men to look at how do you bridge the gap.
right, and a wonderful thing about these organizations is when you partner with them, when you go in and you say, yeah, I'm a dad and I want to do better with my kids. I want to learn this stuff. What they're providing you is a roadmap that's based on empirical data. That means research and tried and true methodology. They teach you what they know will work. It's not a matter of guessing. Well, I guess you could say this, or I guess that. You got people who have worked together. I'm involved in this project, who have worked together and put together a curriculum and based on what information has been proven to be needed by many of the fathers. Dealing with child support, dealing with co-parenting, okay, dealing with impediments to employment and everything. So
Hey,
those
Doc,
things.
hey, Doc, but you left something out. And as a father myself, I had to learn this, and you left something out that is really important, but I never thought about it until time went on, and I realized there is a difference. And what I mean when I say that is this: as a father, as a dad, it is critically important to have a good understanding of. I have two girls. Let me go ahead and lay it out. I have two girls.
Yeah.
The way that I've raised my daughters,
Mm-hmm.
if I had sons or a son, Doc, gonna love the same and all that good old stuff. But with these girls, one of the things, man, I had to focus on is kind of leveling myself out and listening a whole lot more. And I'm not gonna get into this thing. What do they say? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars, or vice versa. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my daughters growing up were more cranial. They were more, and I hate to use this as stereotype, but more emotional.
Well, it's funny you bring up the Venus and Mars comparative. There's another book, and I teach from this book when I was teaching, and it's called Waffles and Spaghetti. And the euphemism is used in the context that women like spaghetti, they touch everything. All of their stuff is intertwined. Men, on the other hand, are like waffles. We have boxes that we put stuff in, and we visit those boxes. We don't put all our stuff in one box and mix it all up. Women, they're interconnected on many levels across issues in their lives. And that's like when men, for example, we always teach this, me and my wife, is she sent me to the store and I leave the house. She says, get 1, 2, 3, right? Now, as a man, that's what I'm going to the store to get. And that's it. Don't, and then she'll call me up and say, well, add this and add this. Now she's introduced a level of stress to me because my mind is on the 1 and the 2 and the 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And see, we don't, and that throws men off. A lot of us, when the extra stuff is thrown there, yeah, man, why you ain't tell me this before I left the house? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Even though you still got to get the stuff, but in our minds, that wasn't what I went to the store for.
Yeah, yeah. But go ahead, Doc.
And so we have to understand that there is an emotional difference, because women will tell you, well, I feel like, and men will reply, well, I think. Pay attention to those conversations, those precursors to a conversation. Men will always say, I think, man, I think you shouldn't do that. And women usually reply, I feel like you should, because that's where we filter from.
And you know what, Doc? I hear what you're saying, and maybe I've gotten to the point where I've gotten so constructed with the facts that I don't even like to go along the lines of talk about how I feel or what I think, but I like to go along the lines of what is based and rooted in logical fact. What can I go to subscribe to, so to speak, to say this makes all the sense in the world because here's the facts.
Well, the truth of facts versus feelings is that feelings change. They are constant. They are constantly in flux. And that's the problem with basing choices and decisions on feelings. Because how often have you made a decision in anger and it turned out to be worse than what really needed to take place?
But that goes back to, again, we're talking about, for those of you who joining the sit down tonight, we're focusing in on responsible fatherhood, but we're also talking about it from an evolution perspective of being that dad. Anybody can be a father. I mean, come on, let's put it out there. Biologically, anybody can be a father.
Yep.
It is the emotions, it's the bonding, it's the psychological connection when you look at being that dad. But also, Doc, you got father figures who serve that same, or who can serve that same role as being those dads, those responsible father figures.
Okay, and I know that our audience is sitting out there is saying these guys are talking about being a father, but what makes a father critical to life development? And so I'll start this because this is very, very helpful. So when you start out with your child, the first thing you're going to do is provide mental and emotional support so that they can grow. Okay, and there are straight stages to the evolution of being a dad. So even if you don't feel that you're involved, here are the stages of becoming an evolved dad. So the early stages is nurturing and bonding, what I just talked about. And that happens when they're a baby. In the toddler years, you got guidance and play, showing them interactions and strengthening their desire to learn new things. That means giving them attaboys and inspiring them and teaching them how to learn. Okay, school years, mentorship and support. Okay, helping with homework, attending school events, and encouraging curiosity in the child's development. Making sure, make them inquisitive. This is called critical thinking, developing their critical thinking. Why? Why is this, Dad? Why is that, Dad? Dad, what do you think about this? You need to be there and can support that and answer it. Adolescence, communication and example. Now your children they're communicating with you, but they're also watching what you do.
Yeah.
So if you're standing up there and you're saying don't do drugs, but every night I come home as your son, I see you sitting there and you got a big I don't even know what do they smoke now, doobies or what is it? Blunt. Yeah, the blunt things. That's counterproductive. You're telling me that it's harmful, but I see you harming yourself.
I saw some research, Doc, that talked about the fact that United States children in the United States, they are not as ambitious when it comes to asking those questions, why, as much as they used to. And they credit that to all of the self-help technologies, AI. You can go to Alexa, you can go to Google, you can go to all these things now and not necessarily have to do a lot of searching for the answer as to why. And so that was one of the things I found real interesting. And when you said that, it definitely triggered.
You know why they have to go there, Rod?
Why is that?
And I'm gonna be transparent because I'm a baby boomer. I'm the lower end of the baby boomers, because the baby boomers were too busy doing other things than being good parents. That's just the honest truth. And many of them are dumb as hell. Excuse my language. Many of them can't function. They can't tell their kids why this is that, and causations and relational information. They can't teach them cause and effect because they don't know. They were too busy partying and doing and free love and all this kind of stuff. Everything they had they had everything to do with having fun. See, we think fun is a lifestyle, and fun prepares you for nothing but more fun.
But Doc, isn't that the contribution to the breakdown of that cultural aspect of mama and them or big mama and them?
Right. Because we were too busy having fun to go in the kitchen and learn Big Mama's recipe that's been passed down since slavery, or grandfather's ability to whittle wood. If you ask a kid now, you know how to whittle? They'd be what? How many people you know that whittle wood?
Say that again. Whittle wood.
Whittle. Carve wood with a knife.
Okay.
See?
I didn't know
that. See? So that used to be a skill that people had. And when I was a boy, we had this little old man that was whittled out of a piece of wood. And we had him for years and years and years. I don't know what happened to him, but that was hand whittled and made. And that was an art form. They used to sell them. You could buy them all over Florida, where people would carve things with a pocket knife out of wood. That's a lost art. Think about that.
But it goes back to, and Doc, in the last 15 minutes of the show, let's talk about how do we encourage men, just plain and simple men, to be more engaging in responsible fatherhood, the evolution of being that dad, which to me is the ultimate.
Well, first of all, we got to encourage people who want a different outcome, and we gotta find out. We don't ask the triage question as to why. We just go out sometimes and we come up with these solutions and ideas to fix a problem, but we don't understand the cause of the problem. You understand what I'm saying? We don't sit there and triage it or examine it to determine what is producing the negative result or outcome.
Doc, on that note, let me rephrase this and let me reframe it because you cranial, this is your area, and I hear you talking. But we're having a conversation about responsible fatherhood and being that great dad. And instead of asking or posing the question to our listening audience as to why aren't you being what you can be, would the question actually be, Doc, what happened to you for you not to be what you should be?
That's a great that's a great question. But I would go on to say, why don't you want to be a great dad as well? You know, maybe they don't know what a great dad is. You can't be something, Rod, if you have never been exposed to what being that thing is.
But I beg to differ with you on that because if you ask me, and I see where you're going, Doc, but if you ask me, Rod Love, what happened to you that made you become this dad to your kids that you are? And I will tell you, Doc, without any hesitation, what happened to me was a father who, and I'm not caught up in this, but a father who abandoned his family when his children were young.
So that negative motivation became a positive engine. But everybody ain't built like that. I could, we talk all the time, and our experiences is the same thing. I told you, my dad was a voice on the phone who always told me, "Well, I'm coming to see you," and I never met him in person until I was 13. So by that time, I didn't have a need. I didn't feel I needed to have a relationship with him.
And it's sad, Doc. It's sad. Yeah. And I think maybe let's just say a blessing and a motivator for us, but everybody's not built like that. I think you do need models out there for people to see and to be encouraged, and also not just models. If you can go get a license and you got to go get your learner's permit, then you get your operators to drive a vehicle that you can actually drive down the street and hit and hurt somebody or even kill somebody with, you got to be trained how to drive that vehicle. But when it comes to rearing children,
well, the only reason you know why we have again, people respond to reward and consequence. And until we recognize that, see, a lot of people in this nation do not like consequences. They will do everything in the world to blame something else or someone else for the action that they take. We see it every day on the news. We see it every day in TV shows and stuff. Well, if they hadn't did this, I wouldn't have never thought to do this. And the thing is, we're all motivated to do what we want and think we can get away with it.
Well, so you're right.
If there's no consequence for being a bad parent, then I have no motivation of my own sometimes, because on the base level, we all respond to punishment and reward. Then I'm not going to change because it's working for me.
Yeah, you're right. But we've seen as of late those consequences that come with being, per se, a bad parent or a neglectful parent. But those consequences come, unfortunately, Doc, when we see tragedies appear on our TV screen that, unfortunately, some young person has picked up a weapon that, they went out and did some things that are unspeakable.
Exactly. So how do you correct the stuff like that? I don't want to get into the weeds and get off of what we're talking about because the fact is that right now we're discovering how critical being a dad is in our society. So what do we need to do as a society surrounding fatherhood? How do we make and help men become better fathers is what, FEC is focused on. We want to see these men learn the process of being a father, because guess what? That's generational. If you got a great dad, you become a great dad oftentimes. Very few people will be motivated like you and I, by the negative aspect. Because I only wanted to be married one time and have my kids. I didn't want to have kids all over the world and all of that stuff. That was a personal goal of mine. Okay.
So, Doc, let me ask you this: if a person were to ask you, what would be some of the results that are tangible results that they can actually put their finger on as a result of you being a good father, a good dad? What would some of those things be that people can see that's tangible?
I'm a good dad. I didn't do the straight and arrow, but my kids. Let's compare our kids. Your kids both are well educated. They have goals and desires and dreams, right? They know that there is support from both of their parents. Okay. My kids are the same way. My son just finished his cybersecurity, so he's getting certified in that, and that was something that he had a chance to do when he was a young man, a younger man, when he went to college, but he didn't want to stay in college, so he got out. He was on his own. But my girls, they went and they finished college. They both are successful people. They're moms. They're very stable people. They're community oriented. So all of those things that we see in our children are a result of giving them the space and the platform and safety of learning who they wanted to be.
Hey Doc, let me make sure that you and I make something real clear. I just got somebody who kind of piped in, and they basically said, "Hey, I'm not being best friends with my kids." Well, that's not what we say.
Yeah. We're not saying no. My kids will tell you, my dad ain't my best friend. He was not my best friend coming up. But and that's critical. I knew when to pivot and change the status of my relationship with my kids. Now, I don't call them up as dad per se. I don't tell them what to do. My kids, I talk to them and they might tell me something. I say, well, do you want my opinion? And they say, no, Dad, I got it. Guess what? I'm gonna shut up, because I tell them, I don't have to live with the consequences of your choices. So you're making this decision.
Yeah. Hey Doc, Doc, the relationship that I have with my children, and sometimes, man, we get this idea when we say children, people get this image of adolescence or things that I have an 18-year-old and I got a 22-year-old, and you have grown kids as well.
Yeah, and so 30, 35, 37, and 41.
And so let me say this, Doc. Let me say this. The relationship that I've had with my kids has been the relationship of being their father, and yet those two are my children. I don't know. Some people talk about my children are my best friends. That's not in my ballpark. Ain't nothing. I guess if that floats your boat, good for you.
Well, but you see, it's funny because I was having a conversation about the phenomena of son husbands. You know what a son husband is? A son husband.
Oh, okay.
And that's where a non-sexual intimate relationship takes place between a son and his mother. He becomes the de facto husband or man in the home.
Doc, where you get this one from?
It's out there.
It's out there?
Yeah. I don't make this stuff up.
We've all heard that stuff, work husband and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to none of that.
And I'm not saying the unhealthy part about it is the emotional aspect of it. It's not so much as taboo about, it's a non-sexual. The emotional, because what it does, it impedes that young man's ability to pivot and have his own wife, because now the mother is overly involved in all aspects of his life. She wants to approve of
Sound like a mama's boy to me.
Yeah, well, if that's all you know, you don't know that you're a mama's boy. It's just like stupid people. Stupid people don't know that they stupid. Why? Because they stupid. They'll be the last one to tell you I'm stupid. Have you ever met a stupid? And you met some stupid people, and I know they didn't tell you, "Hey, Rod, I'm stupid." so right there, we have to understand there are a lot that young men go through in development that also lends itself to impeding them becoming dads.
Well, you're right, and I'm glad you said that, Doc. Here's something I got to throw a fastball at you. The reliance on celebrities as surrogate father figures and government policies dictating child rearing practices has presented several challenges that are a detriment when you look at responsible fatherhood or being that great dad. What's some of your thoughts about celebrities and governmental policies that impede the progress?
Well, I think celebrity culture in this country has more to do with distractions in the form of culture than anything else. Why do you need to be distracted? Americans watch more TV, consume more drugs and alcohol than any other country in the world. Think about this. You don't see Mexicans with crystal meth, but it comes through Mexico into the United States. Donald Trump said that all of the meth that's coming into the United States comes through Mexico. Why doesn't it get stuck in Mexico?
Well, I can't answer that question, but I can answer this question. When we talk about the detriment of celebrities stepping into that space of being these father figures or role models, you got unrealistic role models, number one. Celebrities often project unattainable standards. We're talking about, it's almost like getting into the NFL.
But who makes them role models?
Folk who are paying attention, those young people that don't understand what you're seeing is, in most cases, is not realistic.
9 times out of 10, celebrities don't make themselves role models. There are people on TV and in different careers who are selling products.
Yeah.
And selling services.
Yeah. Well, at least Charles Barkley back in the day told parents, I don't want to be your child's role model. You be your own child's role model.
And then why do we as a society, let's say Rod Love and Doc Polite can show up in our community, talk to the kids, but we don't see them as role models. Okay? But we can bring Warren Sapp back home, get him out there. All the kids show up and they want to listen to Warren. What about Warren makes his message more valuable than, let's say, you and I, who specialize in this?
Well, I'll answer that for you, Doc, because we're down to 2 minutes. One of the things that folk would say, and you've heard this before, you get more clicks.
And so you get the results of getting more clicks.
Well,
you get less information.
Is it positive or negative is the question.
Well, again, I'm just wired different. I want to go to that person that is in a position that I aspire to be in, because when I'm in front of people who know more than me or in a position that I'm not, I learn how to shut up and listen.
Well, and that's the key to it, Doc. Hey, for those of you who tuned in to the Sit Down, takes place every Monday from 6 to 6:45. I want to thank my good friend, Doc Polite. He's always bringing those fastballs, but we're here every Monday from 6 to 6:45. We're talking about community issues. We're bringing in community folk to tell you what they're doing in your community. We'd love for you to tune in every Monday from 6 to 6:45. Doc Polite, I appreciate you, brother. I'll see you next week. And to those of you who tuned in, we'd love to have you. Give us a call so you can appear on the Sit Down.